This is the incredible story of my grandparents, Libby and Jack, and the unexpected moment fate brought them together, changing their lives in ways no one could have predicted. I'm Robert, and this is the legend our family still tells. The winter of 1887. The blizzard howled through Wyoming Territory like a banshee's cry. My grandmother, Libby, sat frozen on a wooden bench at the lonesome Cheyenne train station. Her breath formed white clouds in the bitter air. All she had was a small leather bag, $3, a faded photograph, and dreams that seemed frozen solid. What happened next became the most talked about love story in the West, changing two lives forever. The wind cut through Cheyenne like a knife that December night. Grandma Libby pulled her thin shawl tighter, but it did nothing against the cold. Her fingers were numb. She had been a nurse back in Philadelphia, but a scandal broke. A powerful doctor tried to assault her. She fought back, breaking his nose with a bedpan. No one believed her. No respectable hospital would hire her. So she rode the train west, hoping to find work where people cared more about skills than gossip. But her money ran out here in Cheyenne. She sat on that hard bench, watching her breath fog, wondering if she would freeze before dawn. Her small medical bag sat beside her, the only proof of her training. Then she heard horse hooves. Through the swirling snow, a figure approached. It was my grandfather, Jack Thornton. He was a large man on a magnificent black stallion, wearing a heavy coat. He dismounted and walked toward the station. His boots were expensive. He moved with the confident stride of a man who owned the ground he stood on. When he pushed through the station door, a gust of wind and snow followed him inside. "Evening, miss," he said, touching the brim of his hat. His voice was deep and warm with a slight Texas drawl. "Mighty cold night to be sitting out here alone." Grandma Libby tried to speak, but her teeth were chattering too hard. She managed a small nod. Jack studied her. He was about 30, clean-shaven and rugged. "Name's Jack Thornton," he said. "I own the Double T Ranch about 20 miles north. I was heading home when I saw you through the window." He noticed her medical bag. "Are you a doctor, miss?" he asked gently. "Nurse," Libby managed to say. "Elizabeth Montgomery from Philadelphia." Jack's eyes widened. A trained nurse was almost unheard of in the territory. "Miss Montgomery, you're going to freeze to death if you stay here much longer," he said. "The storm's getting worse and this station isn't heated. Please, let me take you somewhere warm." I don't have money for a hotel," she confessed, her voice a whisper. "That's not your concern right now," Jack said firmly. "Getting you warm and fed is what matters. We can sort out the rest later." He shrugged out of his heavy coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. The warmth, carrying his scent of leather and pine soap, made her gasp with relief. "Can you walk?" Libby tried but couldn't. Without hesitation, Grandpa Jack scooped her up in his strong arms, medical bag included. She was trembling like a leaf. "The hotel's just across the street," he said, carrying her out. "We'll get you warmed up and fed, and then you can tell me what brings a trained nurse to Wyoming Territory in the middle of winter." As they stepped into the storm, Libby felt safe. She didn't know this man, but she trusted him. Maybe it was the kindness in his eyes. The Cattleman's Hotel was Cheyenne's best. When Grandpa Jack walked in carrying a half-frozen woman, every head turned. "Found this lady at the train station near frozen to death," Jack told the clerk. "I need your best room. Send up hot food, coffee, and plenty of blankets." Jack carried her up the stairs to a spacious room with a fireplace. He set her gently by the fire and immediately got the flames roaring. "The hotel will send up some ladies' clothes," he said, working quickly. "Yours are damp. We need to get you warm and dry." Hot coffee and soup soon arrived. Jack poured her a cup. "Drink this slowly," he instructed. "Too much heat too fast can be dangerous." "You seem to know something about medicine yourself," Libby observed. Jack smiled. "You learn a few things running a ranch. Men get hurt, animals get sick." He pulled up a chair. "What brought you west, Miss Montgomery?" "I worked in a hospital in Philadelphia," she explained. "A doctor tried to force himself on me. I defended myself. I broke his nose with a bedpan." Jack's jaw tightened, but then his mouth twitched. Good for you, I hope it hurt. It did, Libby confirmed, but it cost me my career. I thought maybe out west my past wouldn't matter so much. It doesn't, Jack said firmly. Out here we judge people by what they do. A trained nurse is worth her weight in gold. A maid arrived with new clothes. I'll wait downstairs while Miss Montgomery changes, Jack said, standing. Mr. Thornton, Libby called just as he reached the door. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Jack paused, his hand on the knob. Maybe because I know what it's like to be alone in the world, he said quietly. And maybe because I've been praying for someone like you to come along. Someone like me, a healer. My ranch hands get hurt regular. I've lost good men. But more than that, he turned back to her and his eyes held hers. I've been looking for someone special, someone with strength and courage, someone who'd break a man's nose rather than let him take. And then he left, closing the door gently. Libby woke to sunlight. The storm was gone. She slept better than she had in months. A soft knock came. Miss Montgomery, it's Jack Thornton. When she opened the door, Grandpa Jack stood there with a breakfast tray. Morning, he said with that smile that made her heart skip. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you, she said. Call me Jack, he corrected, setting the tray down. And you don't owe me anything, but I was hoping we might talk about your plans. I don't have many plans, she admitted over a plate of eggs and biscuits. I was hoping to find work in a mining camp. Jack leaned back. Mining camps are rough places for a woman alone, dangerous. I can take care of myself, Libby stated. I'm sure you can, but there might be another option. My ranch covers 50,000 acres. I employ about 60 men year-round. They get hurt regular. Libby was intrigued. You're offering me work. I'm offering you a position as the ranch's nurse, Jack said. Good pay, comfortable quarters, all the supplies you need. Your own cabin near the main house. What would you expect in return? Honest work for honest pay. Tend the men, help with difficult births among the livestock. Nothing more than that. And you'd expect nothing personal. Jack's eyes softened. Libby, I'm not the kind of man who'd take advantage of a woman's desperate situation. If something personal were to develop between us, it would be because we both wanted it. How far is your ranch? She asked. 20 miles north. The Double T, we raise cattle and horses. Haven't you tried to hire a doctor? Jack laughed, but there was sadness in it. I've tried. They all want profitable town practices. Ranch work is too rough, too far away. But you'd hire a woman. I'd hire anyone with the skills and courage to do the job, Jack said firmly. Out here, we care about what a person can do. Libby considered the offer. It felt too good. What aren't you telling me? Jack smiled. Smart as well as skilled. All right, here's the truth. The Double T is a working ranch. Winters are hard, summers are hot. You'd be the only woman besides Cookie's wife, Martha. Most of the time, it can be lonely. I've been lonely in cities full of people, Libby said quietly. Ranch loneliness would at least be honest. There's something else, Jack continued. I'm not just the owner. My family has money, quite a bit of it. My father made a fortune in shipping, and I've done well with investments in addition to the ranch. Some people might say you're trying to catch yourself a wealthy husband. Grandma Libby's chin came up defiantly. Let them say what they want. I know my own heart and intentions. I believe you do, Grandpa Jack said softly, but I wanted you to know what you might be walking into. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the snow-covered street. Finally, Libby spoke. When would you want me to start? Jack's face lit up with a smile that transformed his weathered features. Does that mean you'll take the position? It means I'll try it, Libby said carefully. If it doesn't work out for either of us, I'll move on with no hard feelings. Fair enough, Jack said, standing and extending his hand. Welcome to the Double T, Nurse Montgomery. As Libby shook his hand, she felt that spark. From the look in Jack's eyes, he felt it too. Grandma Libby knew this job might be more complicated than she'd thought, but for the first time in months, she was looking forward to the future. The ride to the Double T ranch took 3 hours. Jack had bought her a warm coat, riding boots, and other necessities in Cheyenne, refusing to take no for an answer. "Consider it an advance on your salary," he'd said with a grin. As they rode side by side, Libby felt a sense of freedom. The landscape was vast and beautiful, with snow-capped mountains and endless sky. Jack pointed out landmarks and finally, the boundary markers of the Double T. "There she is," Jack said with obvious pride as they crested a hill. Libby gasped. The Double T Ranch sprawled across a valley like a small town. The main house was large, built of logs and stone. Nearby stood the bunkhouse, stables, corral, and a blacksmith shop. "It's beautiful," she said honestly. "Wait until spring," Jack replied. "When the grass is green, there's no prettier sight in all of Wyoming." As they rode into the ranch yard, the men emerged. They were all curious about the woman riding beside their boss. "Boys," Jack called out as he dismounted, "I want you to meet Miss Elizabeth Montgomery. She's our new nurse." A cheer went up. One grizzled cowboy, Tom Bradley, the foreman, stepped forward. "Can't tell you how glad we are to have someone with medical training on the ranch, miss." "Thank you, Mr. Bradley," Libby said as Jack helped her down. "Oh, you will be," said another man with a bandaged hand. "I cut myself on some barbed wire yesterday, and it's been paining me something fierce." "I'll take a look at it after I get settled," Libby promised. Grandpa Jack led her toward a small but well-built cabin about 50 yards from the main house. "This will be your home," he said, opening the door. The cabin was simple but comfortable with a main room, a small bedroom, and a kitchen. A fire was lit. Cookie's wife, Martha, stocked the kitchen, Jack explained. "If you need anything else, just let me know." Libby walked around the cabin. It was perfect. "There's one more thing," Jack said, leading her to a room she hadn't noticed. "I thought you might need this." He opened the door to reveal a fully equipped medical office. Examination table, cabinets full of supplies, surgical instruments. Better equipped than some hospitals she'd worked in back east. "Jack," she breathed, overwhelmed. "This must have cost a fortune." "A good nurse is worth a fortune," he said simply. "Besides, I ordered most of this months ago, hoping I'd eventually find someone to use it." Libby felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," Jack said with a smile. "Wait until you've seen what some of these cowboys can do to themselves. You'll earn every penny." As if to prove his point, Tom Bradley entered, supporting a young cowboy hopping on one foot. "Sorry to bother you, miss, but Billy here just got stepped on by his horse." "Bring him into the medical room," Libby said, immediately shifting into professional mode. "Let's get that boot off and see what we're dealing with." As she examined Billy's foot, Grandpa Jack watched from the doorway. When she looked up, she found him smiling. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," he said, "just thinking that this might work out even better than I hoped." That evening, after treating 3 more injuries, Grandma Libby sat in her cabin trying to process everything. 2 days ago, she'd been freezing. Now she had a home, a job, and the respect of the men. And then there was Jack Thornton. He was strong but gentle, wealthy but unpretentious. He treated her as an equal. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was Jack, standing on her porch with a steaming cup. "Thought you might like some hot chocolate before bed," he said. "Martha makes the best in Wyoming Territory." "That's very thoughtful," Libby said. "Would you like to come in for a few minutes?" Jack hesitated. "I don't want to compromise your reputation." "I think my reputation can survive a brief conversation with my employer," Libby said with a smile. "Besides, who's going to see us way out here?" Jack entered and took a seat by the fireplace. "How are you settling in?" he asked. "Better than I dared hope," she admitted. "The men have been very respectful, and that medical room is incredible." "Good." He fell silent, staring into the fire. "What is it?" Libby asked, sensing something troubling him. "I want to be honest with you about something," he said finally. "When I found you at that train station, it wasn't entirely by chance." Libby set down her cup, suddenly wary. "What do you mean?" "I'd been in town on business, yes, but I was also making inquiries about finding a nurse for the ranch. The hotel clerk mentioned that a woman with medical training had been asking about work earlier that day. I went to the station hoping to find you." "So, you knew who I was?" I knew a trained nurse was supposed to be on the evening train from the east, Jack said. I didn't know your name or your circumstances until I found you there. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Because I wanted you to take the job based on its merits, not because you felt obligated to the man who rescued you. It made sense, and Libby respected him for his honesty. Is there anything else I should know? Jack met her eyes directly. Just this. I'm attracted to you, Libby. Have been since the moment I saw you sitting in that station. But I want you to know that your job here is secure regardless of your personal feelings toward me. I won't pressure you. Libby felt her heart skip. The attraction was mutual. Thank you for being honest, she said softly. And for the record, the attraction isn't one-sided. Well, Jack said, standing, I should let you get some rest. Tomorrow, Martha's eager to give you the full tour. Jack, Libby called as he reached the door. Thank you for everything. I haven't felt this hopeful about the future in a very long time. Neither have I, he said quietly. And then he was gone. Spring came early to Wyoming Territory that year. Grandma Libby settled into her new life. She treated everything from broken bones to snake bites. She earned the trust and respect of the Cowboys. But it was her growing relationship with Jack that occupied most of her thoughts. Their evening conversations on her porch had become a cherished routine. One evening in late April, as they sat watching the sunset, Jack brought up a subject that had been weighing on his mind. Libby, there's something I need to tell you about my past, he said, his voice unusually serious. What is it? I was married before, Jack said quietly. Her name was Rebecca. We were childhood sweethearts. Libby felt a stab of jealousy, followed by guilt. What happened to her? She asked gently. Fever took her 3 years ago, Jack said, pain evident in his voice. When she died, I thought my chance at happiness died with her. I'm sorry, Libby said, reaching over to squeeze his hand. She was special, Jack agreed. But she was also nothing like you. Rebecca was gentle and content to stay home. You're strong, independent, willing to face challenges head-on. I love that about you. Libby's heart stopped. Libby, I know it's too soon, he said quickly. I know we work together and that complicates things, but I can't pretend anymore that my feelings for you are just professional respect. Mine aren't either, Libby admitted. But you're right, it is complicated. What would the men think? I don't care what they say, Jack said firmly, but I care what you think, what you want. Before Libby could answer, Tom Bradley came running up to the cabin, his face pale. Boss, Miss Libby, there's been an accident. Lightning spooked the horses and young Danny got trampled. He's hurt bad. Libby was on her feet instantly. Where is he? Bunkhouse, Tom replied. Libby ran to the medical room while Jack saddled horses to ride for the doctor in Cheyenne. But when she reached the bunkhouse and saw Danny's injuries, his chest crushed, his breathing labored, she knew there wasn't time. Internal bleeding was obvious. She had to operate immediately. Clear a table, she ordered the gathered men. I need light, hot water, and clean sheets. Tom, I need you to assist me. Miss Libby, shouldn't we wait for the doc? Tom said uncertainly. He'll be dead before the doctor gets here, Libby said firmly. I've done this surgery before. We can save him, but we have to act now. For the next 3 hours, Libby worked over Danny's broken body. The Cowboys watched in silence as she performed what seemed like miracles. When she finally stepped back, exhausted but triumphant, Danny's breathing was steady. He'll live, she announced, and the bunkhouse erupted in cheers. Grandpa Jack, who had returned with the doctor an hour earlier, watched from the doorway with undisguised admiration. The doctor examined Danny and confirmed Libby's work was flawless. Later that night, as they sat on her porch in the moonlight, Jack spoke. What you did tonight, it was incredible. You saved that boy's life. It's what any trained nurse would have done, Grandma Libby said modestly. No, Grandpa Jack said firmly. It's what you did, and it's why I love you. There it was, out in the open. Libby looked at the man who had rescued her, given her a home, and now looked at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. I love you too, she said simply. Jack leaned over and kissed her then, gentle and sweet under the star-filled Wyoming sky. When they broke apart, Jack said, Marry me, Libby. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated, but I can't imagine my life without you now." "Jack," Libby began, but he held up a hand. "You don't have to answer tonight. Just promise me you'll think about it." "I will," she promised, though she already knew her answer. Word of Jack's proposal spread through the ranch faster than wildfire. To Grandma Libby's surprise, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. The Cowboys loved and respected her. "Never seen the boss smile so much," Tom Bradley told Libby. "You're good for him, miss. Good for all of us." The wedding was planned for the first Saturday in June. It became the social event of the season. Cowboys, townspeople from Cheyenne, and Jack's business associates all came. Libby wore a dress of ivory silk Jack ordered from San Francisco. Martha wove prairie wildflowers into her hair. She looked radiant as she walked down the makeshift aisle, with Tom Bradley proudly escorting her. Jack waited at the altar on the porch of the main house. When their eyes met, his nervousness vanished, replaced by pure joy. "I do," Jack said firmly, his voice carrying clearly. "I do," Libby replied, her voice strong and sure. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Jack's kiss drew cheers and whistles from the Cowboys. The celebration that followed was legendary. Cookie outdid himself with a feast. Music, dancing, and storytelling lasted well into the night. The most meaningful moment came when young Danny, recovered from his surgery, stood to make a toast. "To Mrs. Thornton," he said, "the woman who saved my life and made our boss the happiest man in Wyoming Territory. May your love story inspire generations to come." The crowd erupted. Libby found herself crying happy tears as Jack squeezed her hand. As the evening wound down, Jack and Libby found themselves alone on the porch. "Well, Mrs. Thornton," Jack said, "how does it feel to be a married woman?" "It feels like coming home," Libby replied honestly. "Like everything that happened before was just preparing me for this moment." Jack pulled her close. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful gold locket. "Jack, it's beautiful," Libby breathed as he fastened it around her neck. "Open it," he urged. Inside was a tiny photograph of them from that day. Engraved on the opposite side were the words, "Forever and always, JT. Now you'll always have me close to your heart," Jack said softly. "I already do," Libby whispered, kissing him under the star-filled Wyoming sky. The first year of marriage brought both joys and challenges. Libby continued her work as the ranch nurse, but now helped Jack with the business side. She was a natural. Her medical skills became legendary. She successfully treated a cholera outbreak, delivered twins during a blizzard, and even removed a bullet from a wounded sheriff. Jack valued her sharp mind and never made important decisions without consulting her. Their partnership was tested in the spring of 1889 when Dr. Harrison, the man who tried to assault her in Philadelphia, arrived in Cheyenne. He had come to cause trouble, questioning Libby's right to practice medicine without a license. "My wife is a trained nurse," Jack said, stepping protectively in front of Libby when Harrison arrived at the ranch with a marshal. Harrison was sneering. "Certificates are meaningless if she's been dismissed for moral turpitude. Did you tell your husband about your behavior back in Philadelphia, my dear?" "I told him about a coward who tried to force himself on me and got his nose broken for his trouble," Libby said, her voice steady. That was as far as Harrison got before Grandpa Jack's fist connected with his jaw. The marshal reached for his gun, but found himself facing 30 angry cowboys who appeared instantly. "I'm a citizen of Wyoming Territory," Jack said calmly, though his eyes were blazing. "You want to question my wife's credentials? Fine. Let's go to town and have a proper hearing." The hearing was held in Cheyenne's courthouse. Half the territory showed up to support Libby. Patient after patient testified about her skill. Tom Bradley recounted how Libby had saved Danny's life. The judge's decision was swift. "Mrs. Thornton," he said, "your nursing certificate is hereby officially recognized by the territorial government. You are authorized to practice medicine throughout Wyoming Territory. As for you, Dr. Harrison, I suggest you leave our territory immediately." The courtroom erupted in cheers. "It's over," Jack whispered as he held her tight. "He can't hurt you anymore." "We did it together," Libby replied. "We can face anything together." By 1892, 5 years after their marriage, Jack and Libby Thornton had become the most influential couple in Wyoming Territory. The Double T Ranch expanded to over 100,000 acres, but their contributions to the community set them apart. Grandma Libby established the first real hospital in the territory, a modern facility in Cheyenne. She also started a nursing school, training women to provide care in remote areas. Her innovations in frontier medicine were published back east. Grandpa Jack became a political force, serving in the territorial legislature. He built the town of Thornton, Wyoming, complete with schools and churches on the southern border of the ranch. But their greatest joy came from their 3 children. Twin boys born in 1890, followed by a daughter in 1892. Little Thomas and Jackson Jr. showed their father's love for the land and their mother's compassion. Baby Rebecca, named for Jack's first wife with Libby's blessing, was the light of their lives. "She's going to be a healer like her mother," Jack said one evening, watching their daughter sleep. "Or a rancher like her father," Libby replied with a smile. "Maybe both," Jack said, pulling his wife into his arms. "In this family, we believe in unlimited possibilities." "Do you ever regret it?" Jack asked, reading her thoughts. "Leaving Philadelphia, coming west, taking a chance on a rough cowboy?" "Never," Libby said firmly. "That night you found me at the station was the luckiest night of my life. Everything that happened before was just preparing me to be your wife and the mother of your children." "I love you, Libby Thornton," Jack said, kissing her forehead. "More than I ever thought possible." "And I love you, Jackson Thornton," she replied. "Forever and always." The legacy of Jack and Libby Thornton is eternal. The Double T continued to thrive under their children's leadership. Thomas became a cattleman and Wyoming's first state senator. Jackson Jr. followed his mother and established hospitals throughout the growing state. Rebecca married a rancher, passing down the family stories. The town of Thornton grew into a city. In the museum in Cheyenne, visitors can still see Libby's medical bag next to Jack's wedding ring. On the hill overlooking the Double T Ranch, 2 headstones stand side by side under the big Wyoming sky. Jack died in 1923 at age 86. Libby followed him just 3 months later. The inscription on their shared headstone, chosen by their children, reads simply, "Forever and always, a love that made history." Even today, more than a century later, visitors come to Wyoming to see where the famous love story began. They leave inspired by the story of a millionaire cowboy who found a freezing nurse at a train station and discovered that sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places. Their love story truly did make history, proving that in the land of endless possibilities, love is the greatest adventure of all. Now that you've watched the full story, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate it out of 10 in the comments. Your thoughts help us improve and ensure we're bringing you the kind of storytelling you truly enjoy.